Okay, perfect. Perfect,
Okay.
perfect. Okay, great. All right, so stay on. I'm so happy that you're there, ladies, because it's very hard to speak when all the boxes are black. It's really hard. So I'm so happy. Thank you for staying on. So here is the story that we are going to talk about a little bit about this week's Parsha, or what we just learned from this past Parsha. And what we have to really understand is how incredible the Torah is. It really is that instruction book to living. And if you think about it, like how many books there are out there trying to teach us, like how to be happy and how to be this and how to be that. And now with the internet, it's like you're bombarded every day with how-tos, like how to this and how to that. And the great gift is the Torah itself, because it's from the creator, right? From the Almighty who created this world. So it's not these, like, sometimes could be watching on YouTube and they have these like crazy hacks, like crazy things that they'll say. They'll say, we could save you so much money on your heating bill. Some professor in Toronto or some student in Toronto came up with taking a can and putting a candle in it. You're like, what? Okay, right? But what I feel so good about Torah is it's authentic, all right? It's the truth, it's the emes. And that's something that we have to feel how blessed we are. So in this parsha, like if you look in this book of Bereshit, like, Bereshit is probably one of the easier books of the Torah to teach. Why is it? Because it really talks the most about people. It talks the most, like it's more of a storyline than, how do you build the temple? Like how do you bring a sacrifice? It's not like that. It's very much just the story of people's lives. But who are these people? Unmute and tell me, who are these people? It's not just a random group of people. What?
Our forefathers and foremothers.
Okay, so when people spend so much time and money and effort to find their family tree, okay, so the Almighty has done a big benefit. He's done a really good thing for us. He's giving us our family tree. Now, why? Why do I have to know who my great-grandparents were? What does it make a difference to me? Like, how kids love to hear stories, like, tell me the stories of your mommy, tell me the stories of your puppy.
Maybe we can learn something.
Good. Okay, beautiful. Maybe we can learn something. And what else? What else? What else?
What we've inherited.
Ah, okay, Sheila, thank you so much. What we can learn and what we've inherited. So you don't only in Judaism inherit a physical DNA. It's not like all my family has brown eyes because my Bubby and Zadie had brown eyes. You also inherit, the Torah tells you, a spiritual DNA. Okay, so you inherit a spiritual DNA and you can inherit a character trait. Right? Like, like people go, oh, you're just like your Zadie. He was always smiling, these kinds of ideas. So Torah's trying to tell you, I need to really show you who your forefathers and foremothers were. Now, what is it about them that is very different than what you would find in Christianity? If you would look at, Lahavdil 1,000 times, but if you would look at Mary or Yashka or any of these people, what do you know about them? What does Christianity tell you about all those founders of the Christian religion? They were all...
Some of them came from Jews.
No, okay, right. One came from Jews, but what was it? They were all flawless. Everybody is perfect and everybody is a saint. Now, what do you see? What do you see in Judaism? What do you see in Judaism?
We are not flawless.
No,
lots of trouble.
Lots of trouble. Last week's Parsha, I'd call it double trouble. Right? Double trouble. So this is important for us to understand that Hashem is saying, look, I made you very, very special, but you will slip up. Okay, in reality, we still are a body. We're not just a soul. So there's a lot of temptation out there. You will slip up. But what do these forefathers and foremothers teach you? If you slip up, you can still
come back and improve yourself.
Amazing, Marie. You could still get up. You could slip up, but you could get up. And that's probably one of the greatest lessons that we learn. And that's why the Torah is trying to tell you, you know what, you're right. You aren't all saintly and you will make mistakes, but then you can get up. You can say sorry, you can forgive, and you can start again. So the Mishnah tells you, it's a beautiful Mishnah. I really love it. So in Pirkei Avos, in Ethics of Our Fathers, Rabbi Akiva, who, is a great rabbi. We know Rabbi Akiva, he says, "V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha." He is the one with the wise words, love your neighbor like you love yourself, right? And he is the one who did not learn Torah till he was 40, okay? He, in fact, hated rabbis. He hated rabbis. He couldn't stand them. He thought that they were so, holy. So he really, really hated them. Right. And then he marries this incredible woman, Rachel, who really encourages him to go and learn Torah and says, no, you're making a mistake. You have very nice qualities, but you don't know very much. You need to go back. And he starts like in grade 1, and it's such an embarrassment for him. It's like not an easy story, his life. And then he becomes the top rabbi. So he writes in the Mishnah. So listen carefully. Hi, Hazel. Woohoo. Okay. Okay. So here's what he writes, and I want you to see if you can help me understand it. So he says in Pirkei Avos, Rabbi Akiva used to say, beloved is man who was created in the image of God. Okay, so let's stop right there. What's so beloved about being created in the image of God? So man, like he's saying right away, we should know we're a very loved species. Okay, we're more loved than the elephants, and we're more loved than the fish. So why are we more loved? How can you see that man is more loved than animals?
Man loves man more than what man loves animals.
Yes, man has choices. Animals are instinctual. Man can create himself, right? In the hierarchy of the world, man is the greatest creation because man has what we call Tselem Elokim, the breath, right, of the Almighty inside of us. And that breath gives us the potential to go beyond just killing someone, to go beyond, to think, to build hospitals, to have, you know what I mean? Like, think about what man can do that's positive. I know man can also be worse than animals, right? Because he can use his choice to go in the exact opposite way. But when we try to really build our character, really try hard, someone was just telling me, I was making some calls for something, and this person was unfortunately divorced very young, very quick, very early. And what was so beautiful is that both sides decided they will not speak badly about each other, no matter what. Like, it was just something that didn't work, and that's it. And it's so nice, like when I had to speak to someone, and the person said, like, that's the kind of divorce they had. There was no bad mouthing, no matter what. Okay, so that's a hard thing. Usually you're very angry after a divorce, right? It's not easy. Divorce is not a simple story. And you're usually very angry and very vengeful. So can you imagine, like, you make this pact between the two of you and you say, that's it. My family, your family, we're not bad mouthing. It really just didn't work. That's all. We really didn't like each other. We were too young, whatever the question may be. Do you know what I'm saying? But that takes a lot of greatness to be able to do that. You have got to really work on your character. You're going to fight between the evil inclination and the, positive, the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Ra, between good and bad. So Rabbi Akiva is saying, beloved is man, that God created us more than an animal, that we have free will choice and we could live in the image of God. But listen to the second part of the sentence, okay? So the second part is, it is an even greater love that God made it known to man that he created him in the image of God. There's even greater love that he told us. Like, in other words, God could have said, okay, nothing. I'll just create you, and you, what's it called? You guess who you are and what you are. But it says, no, Hashem not only says, not only did Hashem create you great, he told you you're great. Now, once somebody tells you How do you feel? When people say, I love you, I'm proud of you, you can do it, you're good, I bet you've got it. When people talk like that to you, then how do you feel?
Oh, wonderful.
Great.
Wonderful.
Yes,
You can do
yeah.
something with it. If nobody tells you, like it's a funny thing. No, even if we're successful, even if you're successful, right? If nobody tells you you were a success, you just kind of don't know, right? You could like, you make a beautiful, like you guys are knitting or whatever you're doing. You're knitting, right? You're making something really pretty, right? Right, Hazel. So if you make it and you give it to someone, you go here, and they go, oh. Okay. No comment. Then you're like, did I do a good job or not? It's hard. It's so much harder. So the Torah is telling you, great is the person. Like Hashem made us amazing, but even like, and he made us amazing because he loves us. He wanted us to have a partnership with him in building our character. Okay, he wanted us to be partners, but more than that is that he tells you you're great. Right? More than that is, I told you you could do this. You are good. I'm telling you, you're good. And that's like, to me, such a beautiful idea. So it goes like this. Let's say there was a homeless fellow. Okay, so Dave. Okay, Dave is this homeless fellow. He lives on the streets. Bad news. He's always got like his hat flipped over so you can put money in it. And one day, Elon Musk walks by and he sees this David, and he's like, poor guy. He's like really never had it good. You know what? For me to give him $100,000, what's the big deal? So he finds out that this guy had a bank account. Okay, that this Dave had a bank account. All right. And he's got like $10 in his bank. But so Elon Musk finds out with all his good tech and everything, and he deposits $100,000 into this guy's bank account. Okay, great. But Dave is still day after day out there with his hat. Because you know why? He never told him. So if you don't tell the person, like in who remembers Fiddler on the Roof? I really like that movie. So in the end where they come up with that whole song, do you love me? So why did they come up with that song? Because they never even thought, like, do you love me? I don't know. You never told me. Like, I never even thought about it. So this is the idea, right? There's like languages of love. Everybody hear this idea? You've heard of this before? Has anyone heard of this? There's 5 languages of love. That's what they say. There's 5 languages of love. What does that mean? Some people, they need time. Like if you love them, they need you to spend time with them. It's not enough to just send flowers. You know what I mean? They need you. Okay? No, there's people like this. So when they marry someone who's a workaholic and they just keep sending them flowers, but they never show up, it doesn't mean enough for them. All right? Then there are people who need to be touched. Like, could you give me a hug? Can you hold my hands? Okay. Then there are people, I wrote them down. Let me see if I can remember them. Okay. Then there are people who there's time. Wait a second, touch. They need you to do things. Like if you say, can you change the light bulb? They go, yeah. Then that person feels very loved. Right? If you go, oh, in 10 minutes, they're like, like that's a downer for them, right? And then there is
Maybe give
gifts.
something to.
Yes, good for you. Thank you for reminding, because I couldn't remember that one. Then there's people like, unless you give them a gift, they don't get it. That's like that's what turns them the most. But everybody needs words of affirmation. Okay? Everybody in this world, okay, no matter what language you have, you need words of affirmation on top of it. Words of affirmation means you need to say, I love you, I this, I that. So Rabbi Akiva, it's very interesting here. He's putting a twist on things. He's saying there's something, not just definitions of love. Love is not just giving to someone, seeing the virtues in someone. Love is actually saying it, letting the person know you love them. So saying, I love you, I'm proud of you, I'm so happy you did this. It's like amazing. So this is what you're learning. So Hashem said to the Jewish people, it's so nice. There's another Pirkei Avos. It says that the Mishnah also says that the Jewish people Hashem made it known to them that they are his children. We're the only ones called his children. The rest of mankind are called his constituents, but we are his children, mamish. Okay? So we are like right next to the kings, the sons and daughters of the kings. The rest of the people live in the country. They live in the palace. They're his constituents. Hashem wants to take care of them, but they aren't his children. Only the Jewish children are B'nai Yisroel, B'ni Bechori Yisroel. You are my firstborn. That's what we are called. So, so it says again, I just want to find it. Yeah, in the Mishnah it says, okay, so that Hashem not only, sorry. In the Mishnah it says, okay, right. The Jewish nation is beloved by God, for they are called his children. It's an even greater love that it was made known to them that they are his children. Okay? It makes the greatest difference when we are not only loved, but we are told that we are loved. Okay, so it's not only that someone is always doing something for you or taking care of you, but you really actually need to hear those words. So sometimes it's nice, like, love you, like just love you, see you, love you, it's just, what's the word? It's language that brings people closer, right? It's language of love, is to actually express it. So, it doesn't always work like that. It's not always so easy. So let me explain to you a beautiful story where this very affluent man came to Rabbi Wallerstein of blessed memory. I don't know if people remember him. It's a really dynamic, incredible rabbi. He was touching the world. Unfortunately, passed away young. He was really, really a great guy. He did so much for the Jewish people. It's unbelievable in speaking, and he had schools and a ranch for people who were addicted to drugs. Like, he really was a shaker and mover for the Jewish people. He was giving a lecture once in Florida, and an elderly gentleman came over to me. He said, listen, Rabbi, I just want to tell you something. You are extremely dynamic. He said, you're a very dynamic rabbi, and I see you're going around speaking all over. So I want to ask you if you could really tell people this story. So he said, my parents were Holocaust survivors. He said, my mother, before the Holocaust, had 8 children and a husband. No one survived, not her family, not her extended family, nothing. She was all alone. When she came to America, she found someone. They got married and they gave birth to this gentleman, and he was an only child. Okay? Never in his life did she once say, I love you. Never. And I think it could be because she couldn't, because once you say, I love you, I'm connected to you, and I'm vulnerable, and God forbid this could happen again. Do you know what I mean? Like, you understand that this was post-traumatic stress, right? There's no post-traumatic stress. So he said 3 days before she died, she said, Herschel, I have to tell you something. So he leaned in, and she said, Herschel, I know I never said it to you, but I am so proud of you. And he said that was the greatest day of his life. He said, I once had a day where I made $100 million in one day. He said, I thought that was over the moon. Like, nothing could ever top the feeling of making $100 million in one deal. Until my mother finally said to me, Herschel, I'm proud of you. So he said, I beg you, Rabbi, go around and tell, right? Tell people, grandparents and parents and sisters and brothers, and to tell people, I love you. Now, it's not just I love you. I just want to tell you, it's also, you can tell just plain, everyday people, I appreciate you. It makes the biggest difference. Like, I do this personal training. And just last week, somebody in the middle of the training, like, there's other ladies and everything, in the middle, she just went, I just have to thank you right now. I just have to tell you how grateful I am. I really thank you. This really makes me feel good. It's probably one of the, like, I have very nice ladies and they always say thank you, but it was the first time I ever had it, like, very spontaneous. Do you know what I mean? In the middle of the class, it made the biggest deal, because what happens after a while, you work with people, they get used to you. Like, you don't say thank you anymore. You know what I mean? Like, you're like just used to it.
Granted.
Right. You take it for granted. It's already like, okay, I said it once. Do you know what I'm saying? So how deep can love be? So let's think about it. So in the Torah, it says that Yaakov loved Yosef. Yaakov loved Yosef, and Yosef knew it. Okay, he bought him the coat, and he did all these things for him. And it says very interesting, like Yosef ended up being sold, right? Sent down to Egypt. So many terrible things happened to him. It's really an incredible story that he's really someone who went from the pits, literally, from the depths of the depths, like living in prison, in the pits a few times now that I think about it. They threw him into a pit, right? Then they sold him. Okay, he was sold multiple times till he got to Egypt. Then in Egypt, he was bought by this person who worked for Pharaoh, whose name was Potiphar. Okay, that was his name. Okay, and there was something about Yosef that he never gave up. And instead of just taking everything and looking at himself, he always was looking around to see what he could do for other people. And sometimes like they'll say, like, if you're in a depression or you feel very trapped, the best thing you could do is look to see what you can do for someone else, like to take, do you know what I mean, this energy and send it out. So he sent out this energy and he ends up working in this Potiphar's house. Now, this Potiphar made him in charge of everything. He like just kept raising him up. So now he became like the butler. Now he was 17, very good looking boy. The Torah goes out of its way. I don't know why, like usually doesn't do that, but the Torah goes out of its way to tell you what a good looking guy he was. All right. So he's an incredibly good looking guy. And the wife of Potiphar like wants to seduce him. Okay. And she's going after him and after him and after him, after him, after and after. Like it doesn't stop. Like he doesn't leave him. She doesn't leave him alone. And he keeps saying like, forget it. I'm not in. Like, I'm like, I have a job here and I'm going to be loyal to your husband. Like, stay away from me. And in the end, one day, there's like this big festival of the Nile, when the Nile spills over, and all of the people are going to town, right, for the festival. And she fakes that she has a headache. So she stays home and he comes. And now they're all alone in the house. So it's even more, you know what I mean, of an opportunity. So she really goes after him. And Torah tells you that he almost gave in. And then he looks up and there's like a mirror or glass and he sees his face. He sees his image. Who does he see? He sees his father because he looked very similar to Yaakov. And then everything turns. Because no, I remember how much my father loved me. I know how much my father believes in me. I know my father hasn't given up on me. Okay. And it's interesting. And they use a word in the Chumash that means like, here, I just want to find it for a second. It says Vayama'ain lihi, Vayama'ain Yosef, which means he adamantly refused her under no circumstances. Okay. Why? Because he felt this connection, this great love, and he did not want to disappoint Yaakov under any circumstances. He believed, like, I'll see my father one more time. He knows I couldn't have really died because I didn't. So he wouldn't have that, what they call menuchas hanefesh. Like you could see when you look at this story, we have to really take for a minute, a moment of compassion to these hostages and to their families. It's a very similar story. Do you see it? Do you see it? You're ripped away from your parents. It's a very similar story. And he ends up in prison, right? Because he does not do what Potiphar's wife wants. He doesn't give in to her, thank you. And then she rips he's leaving and she rips his coat and then she starts screaming. He's left and she starts screaming, look, he tried to get me. I even have his jacket. He was on top of me, blah, blah, blah. And then he ends up in prison. So the only way that Yosef is able to keep going through test after test after test is because he does not give in or think for a minute that his father has given up on him. He adamantly refuses. That's what the word is. And it says by Yaakov, the Torah uses the exact same Hebrew word. that he adamantly refused to believe that Yosef was dead. So they had like such, you know what I'm trying to say? There's like, if you put like a real line here, real strong connection. Does everybody get it? A real strong connection of I love you, you love me. 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 I believe in you, I believe in you. I believe, like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's so fundamentally inside of these two people that spiritual energy, strength, and love was what was carrying them. And the same thing has to be with the hostages. Those parents, like you see, like it's so heartbreaking whenever I think of what was her name? His name was Hirsch, right? And I think
Poland.
yeah. And the mother's name was Rachel. Mother's name was Rachel.
Poland.
Yeah, that was his name. Hirsch, the one who
Ish Poland.
yes, Hirsch, yes,
P-O-L-A-N.
thank you. And his mother, like that tie that was there, like you know what I mean? That tie that was there between them was incredible. Hashem should take revenge on all the people who harmed him. But Hashem, and he should have an olam haba. But I'm saying it's neshama shavan aliyah. But I'm saying here, like right now, I think like for all of us, and what are we dreaming? What are we hoping for right now? More than anything, right? A Hanukkah miracle that they are released soon. You know, we're all looking like they're really negotiating hard now because whatever Hashem sent Donald Trump and he has a lot of strength and he told them either you let them out or you're going to pay and you're going to pay hard. So Emir Hashem, like, you know what I mean? This is the time of miracles. Hanukkah is the time of miracles. And Hashem can flip it. So Emir Hashem, like you really, really hope that that's exactly what's going to happen. So how important is a foundation? So we have to realize this. I just didn't think about it. So you know when the Twin Towers went down, do you know why they picked the Twin Towers? Because they were hoping that the Twin Towers would topple this way. Okay? We don't realize, but they crumbled this way. They crumbled down, straight down. Had they toppled over, do you understand what could have happened? Like if you just think about it for a minute, imagine, God forbid, a condo goes over this way. Instead of crumbling down this way, it goes this way. It would have wiped out and killed blocks and blocks of people in Manhattan. Blocks and blocks. These Twin Towers were, I don't know how many stories high. Imagine they would flatten out like a sidewalk. Do you see what I'm saying? An entire sidewalk. Bracha from Hashem, a blessing from God. They came down this way. Like, I don't think, would you ever think of it? So that's, why did they do that? They built the foundation that way. That if they break, it would have to go down. The engineering was created that it goes down this way. Do you see what I mean? So this is what we mean. Like, yes, we can fall. You can fall. But if you're going down this way, you can come back up. You go down this way, everything is smashed to pieces and you take everything in front of you and with you all the way down. So it's such an incredible idea. So we have to see. So let's look at these Mishnahs again. How much does Hashem love us? He let us be independent human beings. Okay? We are very independent. He cannot force your free will. He cannot force you to love him. He cannot force you to accept, Torah as MS. He can't force you to do these things, right? He says, I will let you be your own creative being. You will not be a robot, right? Like he could have made us all little robots, okay? Hashem did not make us robots, because if we were robots, there would be no real feeling for us. There's no real accomplishment for us. There's no real challenge for us. So Hashem says, that's how much I love you. On top of that, I told you I love you, and I told you you can do it. I told you you have the strength. Hang out with me, and I am going to help you reach your fullest potential. And then Hashem told you, how? How do you become a good person? How do you become godly? By learning Torah, right? By learning, right? Not to speak Lashon Hara, by learning to treat your friends with compassion, by learning to say, I love you, right? And then Hashem says, and you got a good place to go. There's a destiny. And in the end, you will end up in a world called Olam Haba, right? Well, you will get the reward of all of this hard work, and you will have created a spiritual force to be reckoned with. And that's what I think we have to really appreciate. Like Basilis Sharm tells you, like you need a GPS in life. You need to know who you are and where you're going and then how to get there. True? True. So this is the GPS that Hashem gifted us. I think like we are so blessed. So I'm going to tell you a story that's going to show you like how a person has to really, really work on their character to be that very kind and best person. And I'm going to show it to you right here. So who ever saw the movie Ushpizin? Anybody see the movie Ushpizin?
Season, no.
No, anybody see it? It's very nice. Okay, so I'll explain to you. It's actually a movie made in Israel. Yeah, and it was a movie all about Sukkot. Okay, so I think they based it off this story. So there was this man, his name is Moshe. I didn't live in Israel though. Okay, his name is Moshe, and he lives in Poland. And he had like, he was a very honest, a nice guy, a very honest, nice guy. Anyhow, he had one of his favorite holiday was Sukkot. Everybody has a favorite holiday, right? Some people's Hanukkah, some people's Pesach, some people's Sukkot. So his was Sukkot, and his favorite part of Sukkot. What's the favorite part of Sukkot for the men?
Doing the
Yeah, the esrog and the lulav. I don't think it's building the sukkah.
or taking it down.
Yeah, I don't think it's building or taking it down. For that, they're looking for someone else to do. But when it comes to the esrog and the lulav, that's their favorite thing, to go shopping for esrogs and lulavs and buy really good ones. So it was like not such a great harvest of esrogim in Israel. So when they got all the way to Europe, they were very, very expensive. So what would happen? This Moshe would always save up money, always, for his esrog. Like months in advance, he'd keep saving up money. What happened this year? The esrog was so expensive that the money didn't cut it. He didn't have enough money. So he's thinking to himself, what should I do? He says, okay, listen, tefillin, I have, the only thing I have that's valuable is my tefillin. He goes, I don't know. What do I do? What do I do? I love esrog. I love Sukkot. For 7 days during Sukkot, I don't need to wear my tefillin. So he comes up with this idea. He sells his tefillin. Can you imagine? He sold his tefillin for the money to buy the esrog. He said, my mitzvah today is the esrog. My mitzvah yesterday was the tefillin. So I'm going to sell the tefillin, and Hashem's going to help me in a week. It's all going to work out. I'm not worried about it. So he goes and he buys this esrog, and he's like so proud of it, and he's so happy. And he runs home. He wants to show his wife. She's not there. So he just puts it on the kitchen counter. Okay. Then he says, I'm going to go and build the sukkah. So he goes out and he's building the sukkah. It's taking so long and banging and this and that. Finally, the sukkah, he's finished. He runs into the house and he says to his wife, so Hinda, you're not going to believe what happened. I went out and I bought an esrog. She goes, what? You bought an esrog? How's that possible? You didn't have the money. He goes, no, Hinda, you have to know. I sold my tefillin. What? You sold your tefillin? Why would you sell your tefillin? It's hard to understand. Like the esrog is only for 7 days. Your tefillin you need all the time. I'm not worried. I'm doing what I need to do. Whatever opportunity is in front of me, that's the opportunity I'm going to take, and Hashem is going to take care of me. So she goes, wow. So let me see the beautiful esrog. So he goes, what? The beautiful esrog? Sure. And he goes to the kitchen counter. He says, right, Hinda, where's the esrog? She goes, what esrog? He goes, the esrog that was on the kitchen counter. She goes, what? I was making a salad, and I could never believe it was an esrog, because there was no way you could spend that money. I thought it was a lemon. And I squeezed the lemon, then the juice wasn't coming out enough. So I started to cut it up into little pieces, threw it into the garbage, and she has like tears pouring down. And then he just looks at her, he's very quiet, and she's crying, and he goes, Hinda, don't worry about it. I love you. You have nothing to worry about. First, my mitzvah was to put on tefillin. Then my mitzvah was to buy an esrog. And now my mitzvah is to tell you how much I love you. Isn't that a beautiful story? I love that story.
Beautiful.
That's, yeah. So it's just an idea like, you imagine the effort it must have taken? Do you know what I mean? Because he now had no esrog and no tefillin. All right. He just had salad. All right. So if you really stop and you think about it, like to build character like that, how could you do it? You could do it because God told you that I gave you a piece of me in you. You have incredible strength. And I told you that I love you and you can do it. And I told you that character building is the most important part of being a Jew, right? That's the most important part of being a Jew. Doesn't help. You need to learn Torah for one reason, to make yourself a better person, to make yourself more godlike. But to learn Torah just to say, collect a bunch of facts and tell nice stories is not what's going to do it. Okay. Sorry. So it's just such a beautiful idea. So what we want to do in our lives, which is tough, is to be very mindful and just say, okay, this is my opportunity. What's my opportunity right now? What's my opportunity right now? What's my opportunity right now? It's a really good way to live, like right here, right now, not 10 years ahead or 10 years behind. Look, we live in a lot of iftery. It's like one of the worst places to live, right? Rebbetzin Young Grace used to say, don't live in iftery. If I only would have, if I this, if I that. No, gone, woof, like dust in the wind. It's the opportunity right here, right now. The future is not going to help you too much either because I have no idea what it is. You know what I mean? Like, no idea. So we're going to stay right here, right now. Okay. So this idea of you being beloved because you are in this Tselem Elohim, you are made in the image of God. I need to remember that about the people in my life. Just like I have to like love myself and, wow, I'm in the Tselem Elohim and God says I can do anything. I have to be able to look at you and say you can too, right? Like I believe in the goodness, the inherent goodness of mankind. That's what we're supposed to try our best to believe in. I know it's hard, it's not always easy. And therefore Hashem says, try not, we're talking about good people. I'm not telling you believe in the inherent wickedness, because there are such things as Russias, there are such things as barbarians, and we do not believe in goodness with them. In fact, with them, we have different ways of dealing, okay? We don't deal with them that way. Or we're talking about the average person in your life, right? The average, like all of us, the Benoni, the big sweeties in our lives. Okay, so for instance, you have to be careful that you don't box them in, because what happened in the story with Yosef and his brothers? They say the turning point is, it's a very interesting turning point, that the brothers went to take care of the sheep. All right, they're shepherds. The brothers go to take care of the sheep. And Yaakov thinks, you know what, let Yosef and the brothers try to make up, because they didn't have a very good relationship, right? The brothers thought that Yosef was very full of himself and that Yosef was trying to take over this family, and appreciate that every other one of the forefathers always had one black sheep in the family. Abraham had Yitzchak and Yishmael. That was the black sheep. There was Yaakov and Esav. So these guys are thinking Yosef is the black sheep, because his dreams make him look like he thinks he's the king over all of us. And it didn't bother them so much when it was like bundles of wheat, right, which represented like 11 bundles bowing down to him. That didn't bother them so much. But it's when he had a dream with the sun and the moon bowing down to him and all the brothers, which meant like his parents bowing down and all the brothers, then they said that's too much. Okay.
Big sibling rivalry.
Big. Okay. So you have to be, which is also all of this, everything that all these stories, the good, the bad, and the ugly of these people is our business, like Sheila said, to learn from it. So you want to not repeat the same mistakes. The rabbis say he gave Yosef that coat, and then the commentators all say, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't show any favoritism to any one child. It's interesting, no? Very interesting. So in the end, when Yaakov says, you know what, I know you got, like he's thinking in his mind, I know they have like trouble between them, but let's see if I can patch it up. You go to your brothers and see how they're doing, right? So as he was coming, they already had him in a box. And instead of saying, look, Yosef is coming, they go, look, the dreamer is coming. What does that mean? They already labeled him. They didn't see him anymore as a brother. They didn't see him as a son. They didn't see him as a person. They saw him as a dreamer who was an antagonist. That's who they saw. So Torah tells you be very careful, because you get angry at somebody, you forget about the totality of who they are. You know, sometimes like a friend can hurt your feelings. And then all you see is that one thing, the one sentence they said, right? And then you forget, wait a minute, they really were a good friend. Oh, wait. You know, your daughter-in-law, your sister-in-law, your sister, you know, like they do this like one thing and suddenly they become that whole thing, right? And you forget, wait a minute, you know, they were nice all the time. They're usually very good to me. They don't usually do this. Like, whoa, calm down, you know, like, yeah, like, or they didn't mean it, or they didn't understand what they said. Like, the Torah tells you, judge the whole person. Okay. Now I'm just going to end with one last thing that you learn from this parsha, and it's a little scary. Okay. That in life, it's not always black and white. Up until now, you knew who the bad guy was and who the good guy was. Black and white. Esav was the Rasha. Yaakov was the tzaddik. Yishmael was the trouble. And Yitzchak was the good guy. Now you're faced with gray. It's hard to understand. Was Yosef too much in their face? These are supposed to be great people. These brothers. These are not just like, you know, average people. These are supposed to be extremely righteous. And now what's happening? It's like, what? Like it's hard to figure it out. So in 1857, there was a great yeshiva called the Volozhin Yeshiva. So the biggest learning center was in Volozhin in Lithuania. Okay. It's very interesting. And the first Rosh Yeshiva passed on, and now the question was, who would take over? Okay, so there were two very great rabbis, who were also in the yeshiva, also kind of related. Do you know what I mean? Like, right? Had extreme genius. So one was the Netziv, and the other one was called the Beis Halevi. They were both brilliant, but they had very different ways of teaching, very different ways of explaining, very different ways of what character was. And the students, they couldn't handle it because one is saying this and one is saying that, and one is this way and one is that way. And they felt it was too much for them. So they went to the board of directors, whatever you want to call it, whoever was, you know, there at that time, and they begged them, could you just give us one direction? We can't live with this multiplicity. So what happened was they called in 4 great rabbis, and they had to decide which one of those, the Beis Halevi or the Netziv, would have to leave the yeshiva and would start somewhere else. That's like, so it was interesting. He came in, this great rabbi, the Vilna Maggid came, and he said to the boys, we're in a very interesting situation. And they said, what? He said, we're like in Parshas Vayeshev. We're in this Parsha, the same Parsha that this stuff happened with the brothers. That's what he said. We can't tell. Nobody here is the protagonist. Nobody here is the antagonist. Nobody here is right. Nobody here is wrong. It's gray. And he said, in the end, we're going to let the Netziv stay here in Volozhin, and the Beis Halevi is going to build his own yeshiva. The Beis Halevi built Brisk. That is the most, it's like the Harvard of all the yeshivas. Okay, so everybody went their way. Everybody had their place. Everybody had what they had to accomplish. But for those moments, it seemed very gray. You couldn't figure it out. So Hanukkah always comes in the winter when things are very gray. It's true. Like I tell people, if you're going to live in Canada in the winter, your favorite color better be gray. It don't be anything else. Okay. So it's a very gray kind of time. And sometimes life is like that. You can't figure it out. Can you always figure it out? You can't. It's not black. It's not white. Is this right? Is this wrong? Should I do this? Should I do that? And you're a little bit confused. But Hashem says, don't worry. Hang on. Because there's always going to be light. And Hanukkah brings like that understanding. So that yeshiva was struggling with those two great geniuses, right? And in the end, they called in that group of judges, the 4 judges, and one of them was the Vilna Maggid, and they all decided, no, we're going to bring light. We'll bring clarity into the story. In the end, there is clarity with these brothers. Right? What was the clarity in the end? Yosef had to go down to Mitzrayim, and he had to pave the way for the Jews to go down. We're born in Egypt. The nation of Israel is born in Egypt. It's an interesting story. We're not born in Israel. The people all go down, we multiply, and then God has to show us, I'm going to take you out of this darkness, and I will give you the greatest light on earth, the Torah itself. Like, it's really something. Do you see what I mean? But from this, it's good for us to know, like, it is kind of gloomy and shmoomy, but soon is Hanukkah, and miracles are going to happen. Amen, amen, amen. And we're going to share in such
Please God.
Please God, we really, Mirz Hashem, with great news and great strength, and lots of light and wonderful things for everybody. So I want to wish you a happy Hanukkah, okay?
And
Right?
I give you my opportunity that I'm grabbing. I'm
Yes.
off to Israel in February, early February, to do on a solidarity mission.
Wow, with who? Who's the
I'm
son?
going with Chabad, and if I don't do it now, Gail, then when? I'm
No,
going to
do it now. Oh,
Yeah,
you're
that's what
going
I
in
said.
February?
So, and I can't wait. I'm not one bit nervous. I just want to get there.
No, you're gonna love it. I'm so happy you're going. You're taking all of us in your
Yeah,
heart.
I will, and I'll be able to report back.
Yes. Oh, I'm so excited. I might be going pretty soon too. I'm waiting. My son, who just got married, they're expecting their first baby.
Oh, with myself.
B'sha'at tova.
B'sha'at tova, so it should be any day. I'm really hoping it's supposed to be due today, but you know how it works. Okay. First babies go, really? I think I'll stay on. Okay. But we'll hope to see.
That's why I always say there's no such thing as a due date. The doctor
agree.
can tell you
I know.
whatever date they want.
But it's true.
You know,
So I'm
my
just sitting in-
oldest granddaughter, she was due on the 16th of June and she came on the 13th. And
Yeah.
the doctor says, oh, she's early. And I said, no, she's right on time.
So true. Okay, so everyone, a wonderful good day. Okay. Thank you so
Amen.
Bye,
much.
everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.